Did you ever find it challenging to switch hats? Today I'm acting, I'll produce tomorrow.
Films in the past, I'd be on set with, a bloodied shirt. Next moment to jump off and throw in a walkie and try to put out some fire. That was a nightmare. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that again. Hi, I'm Jonathan Rosenthal, and this is When Zay Zay Met. And today, Zay Zay met me.
¿Qué pasa? ¿Cómo está mi gente? I am Zay Zay and welcome to When Zay Zay Met. Now today we're meeting with a fantastic actor, producer, writer who's definitely finding a way or making one. He's using his varied skills, if you will, to bring ideas to life. And his latest adventure is absolutely nothing short of thrilling. Today, we're going to talk about that and so much more. Party people, show your love. This is Jonathan Rosenthal. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. Nice to meet you.
Good to have you. Nice to meet you too. Okay, so you're from La Jolla, California, right? That's where you grew up?
Yeah, that's where I grew up. Yeah.
Oh man, tell me a little bit about what it was like for you growing up in La Jolla.
La Jolla is a postcard come to life. It's a pretty magical, beautiful place, right by the border. I spent a lot of time in Tijuana and all throughout Baja, surfing and camping, and doing things that young kids do. But yeah, no, it was a great place to start off, and in a lot of ways, it kind of spoiled me because, where do you go from there except for Los Angeles? So here I am.
There you go. I can imagine that it must have been a great place to sort of to cook, right? For your imagination to sort of run wild and be able to develop all that is everything you do now, right? You're incredibly creative. And like I said in your intro, right? You that's one of the mantras that I live by, which is I will find a way or make one. And I see that a lot in doing my research about you, which is, again, you're not only an actor, but you write, which is a creative outlet, but both of those creative outlets. But you also produce, right? You have these things that you want to do creatively, and if there's no one there to help you do them, then you figure out a way to make them happen yourself, right? You're also an entrepreneur on so many great levels. So I can imagine being a youngster, finding ways to be creative, and then when you can't figure out people to produce for you, then you just make it yourself. How was your upbringing nurturing in that sense? I know that was a long way to land the plane, but I'm curious.
No. My parents are both just the sweetest people on the planet. My dad is a doctor, a psychiatrist, and my mother was a physical therapist turned watercolor artist. So growing up with that mixture of, the clinical approach to medicine mixed with, a maternal mother's touch with creativity and art. And both my parents are both huge proponents of theater and the arts in general. So I think it was kind of the perfect storm of having structure in place, but also inspiration and creative freedom.
Very cool. As a producer, living both sides of this paradigm with Millhouse Pictures, what do you think is harder, making movies well or getting movies made?
Ooh. Getting movies made is pretty hard, but I think making them well is probably the bigger feat. I think that in this day and age, anyone and their mother can go make a movie. We all have iPhones now that shoot 4K. They shoot films like Tangerine and such entirely on an iPhone. So anyone can make a movie. I think it's having the discipline and just gaining the experience to understand what really are the best aspects of storytelling in a way to make a movie that is reductive enough to be palatable and at the same time compelling enough to be compelling.
That's an interesting concept. So you think that had you not had, if you had to like start over, I mean, we've seen your resume, right? Anybody can go online and see it. Dude is grinding, right? If you had to start over right now, you think it'd be that easy for you? I mean, it's just a matter of doing it.
In this day and age, starting present day,
Yeah.
I think it's six in one hand, a half dozen in the other, because now technology is more accessible. We all, once upon a time, you needed systems to do VFX and editing properly and this and that. And now anyone can, with a click of a button, download, studio quality programs to do it themselves.
That's true.
So I think there's accessibility now, which makes it more tangible, but also there's an oversaturation that comes with that, which is a limiting factor. So it's kind of a bit of both. I think that, yes, the opportunity would be as much there, but also I think it was a little bit more of a forbidden fruit that for wild, rebellious, younger me was also kind of the shot that sparked the horse to pull the cart.
There it is. Switching a little bit into your acting. Like I said, you produced as well as acted in this gripping. I mean, I was gripped when I watched this film. When you were on set, was it a challenge to figure out when to put on the producer hat on shooting days? Like, you need to star in it, but you also needed to produce. Did you ever find it challenging to switch hats? Did you have to switch hats ever? Or did you just decide, no, today I'm acting, I'll produce tomorrow?
So luckily on this film, I came on as a producer somewhat after the fact. As an executive producer, I helped, just given my relationships and connections in the industry, with a lot of post and distribution. Luckily for this film, I don't think that would have been possible. So fortunately, I didn't have to jump back and forth.
Nice.
Films in the past that were same, but different as far as a feat of filmmaking and acting. There were definitely moments where I'd be on set with, a bloodied shirt and going through the motions with my fellow actors, and then next moment have to jump off and throw in a walkie and try to like put out some fires, and that was a nightmare. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that again.
I could imagine what that kind of challenge must be like. Oh my gosh, crazy. This movie, The Abandoned, like I said, it's gripping. And so much of it, I walked in blind. I didn't want to really read too much, although we've been promoting quite a bit. And you can thank Ima for that for sure. But I didn't want to know too much before pressing play. So I watched it as soon as I could. Man, definitely takes you somewhere you're not expecting, especially if you don't know what to expect. Certainly scenes where you are carrying everything. No other actors, no other anything, no interactions with anything, but it's just you and the audience. Tell us a little bit about what you want people to know about before just sitting down and experiencing this movie. Because I don't want to ruin it for anybody any further than you want to ruin it for anybody.
I mean, it's funny having had to kind of give a summary or log line over and over the last couple weeks.
Say it differently. Say it differently. Don't do the log line.
And also, to your point, I mean, all I can really say is it's about a soldier who's in Iraq during the Gulf War, and he gets shot on the battlefield and sees a blinding white light and ends up in a space, like a room that has no doors and no windows, and has to figure out why he's there and how to get out. And I feel like in the past, when I've started kind of going down the rabbit hole of trying to give a few more breadcrumbs or a carrot on the string, it just opens up more questions than really giving just the compelling call to action. So
that's true. That is very, very true. And then you have interactions as the movie goes on with the the outside of the space, right? With other actors.
Well, and I can say that there is another character somewhat present, voiced by Tamara Perry,
Yes.
who's my co-star in this.
Right.
And I would remiss to not mention that because she
course.
is such a powerhouse.
Of course,
Yeah,
and a great actor, and she did a wonderful job in this movie as well. What was awesome about this, and when it was over, one of the things that I realized was that ultimately, The Abandoned is sort of a story of unity when it's all said and done, right? That was my takeaway from this film. What do you feel
Entirely.
you would want the ultimate takeaway for the audience to be?
I think you nailed it on the head. I think that in a lot of ways, it's a story about a person or people that are forced to entirely face themselves and true abandonment. And in doing so, they realize that what gets them out of it and the strongest part of ourselves is our ability to connect with others, and the ropes and bonds that those can create and help pull us out of ourselves in situations.
Now, I don't want to turn this into something that it's not supposed to be, but in the end, it almost feels needed right now. So many people feel alone or disconnected even from their neighbors currently in this world, in this country, in so many ways, especially people that watch the news a lot. I think that movies like this, with this sort of message at the end and during, maybe need this sort of feel, this sort of message. And to walk out of a theater or walk out of their living rooms when it's all said and done, and kind of get that message, or that feeling of unity coming out of a film. Was that on purpose?
Amen. Very much so. And what's interesting is we shot this during the pandemic, right? And I think that idea at the time seemed the most prevalent. It had been quite some time. This idea of facing ourselves, facing our inner demons, and removing yourself to realize what really pulls you back into this communal existence that we call life is. And ironically, post-pandemic, it seems somewhat even more poignant than it did when we were making the film. I think during the pandemic, we learned that we needed each other, and now with everything that we're going through, we're just questioning everything, and it's forcing a lot of people, or causing a lot of people to turn on each other in a way that maybe should be reevaluated.
Agreed. The Abandoned, definitely got to watch that, and well done you, Johnny. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much for taking the time. Talk to us.
Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate
Great
it.
chat.
Do me a favor. 30 seconds before you go. 30 seconds. Sell me this movie. Why do we need to watch The Abandoned?
You need to watch The Abandoned because sci-fi indie films are alive and well, and you just don't know it. This is a film that may seem familiar and similar to other things, but it's unlike anything you've ever seen. And support indie filmmaking.
There it is, The Abandoned. You got to watch it. It's definitely for you. It's definitely for me. Unity, that's what it's all about. Thank you so much for being with us today. Continued success. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Have a great day. Thank you all so much for watching When Zay Zay Met. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be notified when we upload more conversations with celebrities and other interesting people. Now, if you'd like to see your favorite celebrity on the show, it's simple. Just tell us who that is by leaving us a comment down below. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Hasta la próxima. Lo quiero del corazón.